What's going on, everybody? My name's Dodge Gaming and welcome to my first midweek spotlight video. This is the 5 things, or 5 of the things, that I love about Mass Effect Andromeda, despite what the critics have to say. Usually these videos are only released on a Sunday, but I decided to start doing 2 a week because I love editing them and making them so much. They're just kind of fun for me. Today we are tackling, like I said, the new release of Mass Effect Andromeda. Despite heavy criticism on certain aspects like the writing, some of the voice acting, and some of the animations, I went into the 10-hour EA Access Early Access trial with fairly high hopes and no shortage of anticipation, being an unashamed, massive fan of the original trilogy, even the ending. The idea of exploring a new galaxy with brand new characters, stories and enemies to tackle meant I couldn't wait till the actual release date to get started, and I played more than a couple of hours before deciding to make this my first mid-weekly spotlight video. These 5 points are in no particular order, so please don't think I rank them best to worst or worst to best or something similar. Also, please be aware of pretty massive spoilers for the first 2 hours of the game. You have been warned. First up in this list is the combat. Mass Effect has a great reputation for improving the combat formula over the years, because Mass Effect 1 had frankly terrible shooting and cover mechanics and just combat mechanics in general. But then Mass Effect 3 combined all the biotics, the gunplay, and the manoeuvring around the battlefield in a system that I doubted could be improved upon in this franchise. Andromeda has completely destroyed that theory with the introduction of a dynamic cover system and a new jump pack based movement addition, amongst other things. The new cover system is frankly the best that Mass Effect has ever implemented and more flexible than other top tier offerings made by games such as Tomb Raider, Uncharted or Gears of War. Essentially, inside or outside combat, as long as you're in a potential combat space, moving near basically any potential cover will cause your selected rider character to fluidly move into that cover, and from then on it will perform as you expect. You can shoot, move around and hop the cover, all accompanied with some brand new shiny animations that really do make the movement mechanics pop, if you will. New to the series now though, you can actually blind fire from behind the cover you're on, meaning you can deal some brief damage without risking yourself. This dynamic cover system is really nice, and it means you're not tapping a button to move into cover, and everything works well. You move towards cover and it just works. I haven't had any issues with the covering system yet, which is rare for games. Gears of War is one of the best covering systems you'll ever play, but also one of the most infuriating. As mentioned before, BioWare have added jump packs to Andromeda. Now don't panic, this isn't a Call of Duty problem we have here. In fact, it's not actually a problem at all because the whole system's rather terrific. Essentially, the A or the X button for either Xbox or PlayStation will launch you up in the air a few feet. It's also directional, meaning you can hop side to side or back to forth, and not only that, once you're in the air already, you can hover for a few seconds by aiming, much like the very similar ability found in Halo 5 Guardians. This allows you to gain a brief vantage point on the field, while making yourself a floating target, admittedly. You can also launch yourself in a certain direction once in the air by using the same button. This allows quick movement around the battlefield whilst also giving you quick ways of closing down enemies or backing away when overwhelmed. These same jump packs are also used for environmental traversal, and this alone shows the sheer flexibility that BioWare are going for with the combat in their new game. And boosting around the battlefield was very addictive, I will admit. Overall, I'd say that the combat it's not a vast improvement on Mass Effect 3 because the combat in Mass Effect 3 was still pretty damn good, but it is an improvement nonetheless. Nothing has worsened in the combat at all. It's only got better, so BioWare should be lauded for improving what was possibly one of the best things about Mass Effect 3. Second up on this list is a bit random. It's scanning things.
Take a look at these bodies. What are these things? Well, I don't have Sam here, but I can try to make sense of it.
BioWare seem to be intent on adding as much lore and information into their games as possible, not just with the game story and the side missions, or with the endless codex entries you can read. This time around they've also added a scanner. Built into your Omni tool, it allows contextual scanning of objects built into the environment. The early example includes scanning a mission to figure out how to fix it, and then using it to scan also alien technologies on the first planet you visit. Also use it to scan plants and animals, along with any other life form, living or dead. These scans reveal information about the environment and the thing that you're scanning, and potentially later on down the line, also story elements and other such tidbits. Most of the time it seems that scanning things is completely optional, but I couldn't stop doing it if I'm honest. The incentive that Mass Effect games provide for information gathering really is astounding, and BioWare seem to have implemented yet another game mechanic that actively encourages it. Whether this scanning has an impact on the larger game experience is something I can't be drawn on right now, but I wouldn't put it past BioWare to make it central to the tale somewhere down the line. There are some missions that command you to use it, side missions. It was quite cool, and they seem to know what they're doing with it, and I've really enjoyed using it so far.
Can you go reset it?
Third up on this list is the new AI, Sam.
Are you online?
Yes, Dr. Tapero. Good morning, Ryder. Are you feeling well?
While Edie was eventually a masterstroke in character progression and design in Mass Effect 3, and as the resident AI of Mass Effect 2 and 3, I'm sure most of us will miss her character. But I'm in firm belief that Sam is just as much of a well done character concept here. Your father, the Pathfinder, was in the N7 program, right? But was dishonourably discharged due to his experimentation and eventual success within the illegal AI research field. While the entire Pathfinder team can talk freely to Sam, something you eventually learn is that Sam is intrinsically tied to your father on a biological level.
Sam is now part of you, in a way we don't entirely understand. It played havoc with your brain.
And due to certain circumstances, you get given this same gift. Sam is simultaneously able to talk to you privately in your head and also with your squad mates. This means eventually Sam might know you more than your teammates do and leaves massive potential for story progression in this area. Overall, the whole Sam character is something I didn't expect. I expected them to try and fill Edie's boots somehow, but instead they've gone a different route entirely, and I really like it. Plus, any extra potential for video game banter and conversations is more than welcome for me.
Alec wouldn't want us to lose sight of the goal. He said pain emboldens our resolve. He'd insist we grow stronger from his passing.
Fourth up on this list is a big one. It's the class system. Or should I say the removal of class systems, at least for you. In previous Mass Effect titles 1 to 3, at the start of the game you selected a class. Whether it was Vanguard, which combined biotic and tech powers, or Soldier, that focused on weapons training, or anything else that took your fancy really. Essentially, what you chose actually restricted what skills you could invest points in later down the road. So you had to pick in advance what type of character you wanted to be. Now, in Andromeda, you actually get access to the entire pool of skills from the get-go. So you can choose biotic, tech, or combat skills straight from the off without having to restrict yourself. Obviously some are held back until you invest enough points in a single skill tree, but that just means that when you eventually get access to the staple method of resetting your skills, you can fully play around with your setup and really micromanage what you want to be. As such, as well, weapon types are not off limits to you, so whether you want sniper rifle, assault rifle, or shotgun training, or all the training you can possibly get, you can pick whatever you want with no restrictions. Your squad mates do still have class types, however, and their powers are restricted as such, but the sheer amount of powers that you can get is mind-boggling now. Andromeda does limit you to 3 equipped powers at any one time, but these can be switched out on the fly, giving you fast access to different types of powers depending on the situation or the mission you're in. It still takes a fair amount of skill points to max out a power though, so it's still a lot more intelligent to focus on a handful at most at any one time. But the opportunities are massive, especially once you start factoring in new game pluses and all that sort of stuff. Going hand in hand with my previous point about the new AI Sam is another new system implemented in Andromeda. Due to Sam's link with you, he gives you access to this thing called profiles, which provide buffs to certain types of playstyle. These actually take the names of the classes in the original 3 games, so the Soldier profile will provide buffs to weapon damage and health, for example, whereas the Sentinel profile will strengthen your tech and biotic stats. These can also be switched out when needed and are upgradable separately to your skill, and they provide yet another level of customization upon your character. So you can be completely biotic but also have the Soldier buff on to give you more health and weapon damage. That makes sense. You can cross-link so many classes now and it's really cool. As you can tell, BioWare have made it far easier to tailor your character to your needs, rather than pre-existing restrictions. I think this is a massive improvement, and it's actually one that I didn't predict from the game, so a great job from BioWare. Number 5 and last up on this list is the larger open world sections. Now, bearing in mind I've only played 2 or 3 hours at this point, so I can't comment on the rest of the game just yet, but the opening segment of the game is impressive on a scale description. Basically, as soon as you start the game up and get past all the boring difficulty selection stuff, you're dumped straight into it, and that shortly leads you to your first landing on a new planet dubbed Habitat 7. When you land, things seem very Mass Effect-y, with stunning vistas that bring incredible sights to your eyes, but the path you're following is kinda linear to a set objective. Mass Effect has always done a great job of tricking you into thinking it's a truly open world, especially with the way it lays out its hub areas. And in previous titles, pretty much all the missions, except the horrible planet landings in Mass Effect 1, they were linear, almost exclusively. This has changed in Mass Effect Andromeda, or at least it seems to have done in certain areas. The first area you land in, or fall into, for a better description, is extremely open, and immediately you're struck with that sense of being able to take things on in whatever order you please. This is very reminiscent of Dragon Age Inquisition's open world sections, albeit smaller, which is definitely not a bad thing, by the way. In my playthrough of the first area, I had multiple optional objectives, which I'm assuming meant I could have just not bothered if I didn't fancy it. One of these was exploring a research base. I could have completely skipped the part where I wander around this medium-sized interior space, scan things for information, and obviously mess around with alien equipment that quite literally could have done anything.
Whoa. Guess the circuit overloaded. Even the equipment's out to get us.
Similarly, I could have skipped the mission objective that suggested I look for my squad mates and instead just left them and proceeded to the main objective. Now, I was taking my time a little, soaking in the sights as it were, but this first section took me a smidgen over an hour to complete, and at this point I had only leveled up twice. Scattered around were containers hiding resources and weapon upgrades, as well as different combat areas that took full advantage of the new additions that I mentioned at the start of this video. Andromeda has, so far, done a stellar job of making the open plane feel larger than life, while still concentrating on the finer details such as fauna, wildlife, and creating believable combat space.
What is this thing? I think it wants to eat?
If all the accessible planetary areas are just as well made as Habitat 7, I will have immense trouble thinking of games to challenge it in this regard. Unfortunately though, especially for my need to get up in Andromeda's arse a little bit more, this is going to be the end of this spotlight video. Hopefully you like this midweek episode. Whether I keep this up over coming weeks is open for debate, but as long as I can keep thinking of stuff to drone on about for 15 minutes, I'm sure they won't be stopping anytime soon. If you've played Andromeda, let me know what you think of it in the comments below, but until next time, I've been Dodge Gaming, you've all been awesome, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!
This to yourself. She looked at me and this is what she said. Oh, there ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow.